We'll get started in just a moment.
Oh, here I am chatting. I don't even have my microphone on. What a Spaces rookie. Only 10,000 shows deep. Johnny will get started in just a moment. Just some housekeeping things. Um, if you've missed some of our former guests and interviews, you can catch them in our Twitter feeds. Um, we've interviewed like the Real Fats, Ronnie Bardaw, Chris Conrad, Dutch Boyd, Nicholas Rigby, Darrow Kearney. So there's quite a few interviews you can go back and listen to, folks. Find them in our feeds. Now for a word about our sponsor, Elevator Results, whose purpose is to provide a service to help people reach their desired fitness goals, whether it's to gain weight, to lose weight, or to improve your sports performance. Elevator Results can help you reach your goals. I'm just going to give a few words about our guest tonight so you guys can get a little feel for his background in the world of poker in case you don't know him. Our guest is originally from the Midwest, Fort Wayne, Indiana. He gave up cash to play tournaments only, but only shortly into it, he decided he missed cash and the hourly rate, so he went back to his cash roots. His Hendon mob is over 400,000, and Johnny's best cash was over 124,000 for his second place finish in the 2022 Venetian Event 15 Deep Stack. Not only is our guest living his poker dream, but he's living another dream, which is designing clothing. And he's a very popular vlogger. And if you've missed his vlogs, I highly recommend them. In 2019, you were running bad, and you and your lovely wife Olga decided to sell everything and basically sofa surf across America, trying to reinvent your business life. Johnny, welcome to the show. Johnny Vibes Moreno. Can you tell us uh, what a little glimpse of what happened and why you decided to do that? Welcome.
Hi, Sherry. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah, nice to talk to you. I love the little intro. It was a nice little recap for myself. Took me down memory lane a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I actually don't even remember your question. Sorry, I'm at the
No, that's
Bellagio
okay.
right now,
That's
and
okay. No
my
problem.
little sister's in town visiting, so I'm hanging out on the strip. It's kind of nice to be down here and seeing her, but definitely wanted to take some time out to hang out and chat.
Well, we're glad you joined us, and our audience is a lot of folks go back to listen to our recordings because it is Friday night, so people
Mhm.
will be popping in and out. But my question was, how did you decide? Like, what was your mindset when you decided to start your sofa surfing across America?
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I feel like at my core, I love solving problems. It's kind of like been the journey that I've been on with my career choices. Even when I was my first career, which was software development, the part that I loved about it was being presented with a problem and just with my own wit and my own know-how and my own research and things that I could learn through the internet. I'd have to figure out that problem, whether it was like creating some sort of return system in like in an e-commerce site or whatever. So problem solving is just kind of what gives me energy. And I would say that for a little bit in San Diego, we were kind of monitoring our expenses and how much we were making. And I just noticed that the credit card numbers kept like going up every month. And, my wife and I would talk about it like, okay, we actually have like more debt than we had last month. You know, I have like X number of dollars in my bankroll. We could pay off the debt, but then that would leave me with no bankroll. what do we do? We like kind of went into problem solving mode, and it was like, well, what do you? I asked my wife, what does she really want to do with her future, and she was kind of burned out with her work, and she's like, I'd actually feel like I could start my own business and make equal to, if not more, money doing that. And I was like, well, let's go on a little bit of an adventure. Like let's become a minimalist couple. Like sell everything and move out of our $2,500 a month rent on our apartment, which by today's standards feels very small, just because of inflation.
Right.
um, and let's travel across the U.S. I have all these places, all these card rooms that are willing to give me free rooms, all these opportunities to make money across America, and all these friends that we have, and all these. I feel like we could travel across America. I could play poker, make content, and we could leverage offers from casinos and live fairly inexpensively
Right.
while you are working on your business. And it was a good plan in theory, but working on the road and being in cafes and not having like a routine, especially with our dog and everything, because we took our dog with us, it's a lot harder to be highly productive for her.
Right.
So but it was great for me. Like I actually went on a heater. I talked about it in some of the videos, and between living for free, relatively free, a couple places we had to pay money, and then just running hot and also playing in some bigger games, like in Midland. I remember I played in this pretty big game and it went well for me. We just kind of like had a boom switch of like 50K in like 2 months, which is huge. Like at that time it was huge for us. It like almost got us out of debt, but it also like showed that like when we're like faced with a problem, we we can like do creative things to come out of that problem. And it was a fun time in my life, and I actually look back on it finally, even though it was one of the points in my life where I probably had the least amount of money. It's interesting in poker, just because you win and just because you show all these profits for year over year, like there'd be years where I'd make six figures pretty easily, but at the end of the year, still not have a ton to show for it, and it's just sometimes your lifestyle gets out of hand. So it was a nice reset for us.
I love that story. And I watched your vlog while you were doing it. And I've kind of, not to the extreme that you and your lovely wife were, you know, doing it, but I kind of have used that model for like the last, I don't know, 10 years of my life, that I will go do a road trip and I just, use my, clout at a Caesar's property. So I just go there and get comps and food and I can go play poker. But of course, I wasn't doing it with the same motivation you guys were doing it. And so I think
Yeah,
I highly recommend, if our listeners have not listened to any of those vlogs, I highly recommend you do, because, just the stories, and the true passion, as well as it was hard work, and it was learning, how to manipulate that whole thing. And it was quite a journey to watch. And um,
yeah. I didn't have a video editor. I wasn't paying for one, so definitely was a lot of work. We were going from town to town, and I was editing videos along the way and playing, and she was trying to work on her business. So it's interesting. Every time I look back at a phase of my life that was quote unquote difficult or a hardship, I still like have this nostalgic feeling about it. Like, wow, this is really fun. We got through this, and it's yeah. So
because
yeah, I think
it's really about the journey of life, isn't it? It's really
yeah,
about the journey, maybe not the end results, but the journey, and where you went and what you did and how far you've come, right? And
yeah.
you
Even going back to when I first moved to Vegas and I was playing 1-2 at Planet Hollywood 15 years ago, and just like the feeling that I would get when I would win $250, just
right.
like just like walking home to my apartment at Sky, which was like on the strip, and just being like so pumped. Like, I can't believe that this is my life where I get to like go play for 4 hours, win $250, walk back to my high rise on the strip, because I had
That's
just
great.
quit a job. It's just so funny. I
And
still look
there's
back at
not
those
a
times and I'm so fond about them.
there's not a person in this space that can't relate to that. I mean, we
Yeah.
all can relate to that big win or small win and how proud you were and how excited and yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Brian.
I think it's interesting, like in making content and stuff like that. um, I've talked a little bit. One of the summers at the World Series, I brought an editor with me, and we did the vlog and stuff like that. And actually, this picture that's on my profile picture, that's my dad and I that year. And the content that I made, actually, it's pretty interesting because even this year, somebody walked up to me. It was so bizarre. They're like, "Oh, I remember you. You did the vlog or whatever." But the thing that's most interesting is like that footage is like priceless now. And really, I talk a lot about that. Like, what do you think about as far as when you make content, um, that obviously people, for people watching it and stuff, but like for yourself, like to be able to have that later on and go back and think about that time period
Yeah,
in life
no.
and stuff.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great reminder because there's been times where Olga and I will sit on the couch and something will come up and I'll like, well, we made a video that like right around that time, and we'll like go back and watch the video, and then we'll like watch another video, and then we'll watch another one, and then we're just like reminiscing about old days, and then it's funny because I'm like, man, like the quality of these videos like wasn't necessarily so high with like the camera, and like the compositions were a little off in the colors, and the audio is not great, but like I feel like I was putting my heart and my vulnerability and my soul into these videos way more than I do now. Like I feel like now, which is why I'm kind of on a little bit of a break, is I feel less inspired to make videos. Back then, my why was just to have fun and be creative. But when you do something over and over and you're not growing in it and you're not really making money at it or progressing in terms of your overall like just skill in that thing, you kind of you can come to a plateau and you're like, well, what's my why now? So I felt like my why wasn't as strong as it was back in the beginning. Like my why was like, oh well, I want to get this offer from this casino so that we can like, get a better deal on my travel to Florida. And like that's just such a terrible why. And I felt like my videos were suffering as a result.
Don't you think also it when it becomes a job and required on a daily or by day, every other day basis, it kind of takes the fun out of it too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And like doing anything for 4 or 5 years, unless you're growing within that thing and really crushing it, and because like growing and crushing it kind of reignites your passion. Like your results will reignite passion and keep you going farther and farther. But yeah, I
Tell
felt like I started to plateau a little bit, and it became more of a job and wasn't as fun. And there's two ways to tackle that. One way is work even harder and learn more and become an even better like content creator, or open up avenues and look at some new things. And I decided that I kind of wanted to become something outside of poker as well. So I've been splitting my time more and learning new things, and um, yeah, just trying to be a more well-rounded person.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm definitely not a pro poker player, but I always say that, my life comes first and then poker is in my life, right? And I think that says a lot about you and the person you are that, you're expanding your horizons, whatever they are.
Mhm.
Tell us how you got started in poker, Johnny.
So my little brother has 100% of the credit slash blame for getting me into poker. He so at the time that poker was like really huge, back when Moneymaker won, the main event, and it just kind of exploded onto the scene with ESPN and the coverage and the hole cards and everything. Andrew, my little brother, who, for those of you that don't know, his name is Andrew Moreno. He's a beast tournament poker player, and
Crusher.
yeah, considered one of the top. He's climbed to number 9 in the GPI rankings at one point, so he's high up there, and he's had some monster scores. But he was really kind of flailing in life and not sure which direction he wanted to go. He was 19 years old, didn't really want to go to college, didn't really see what like any passions that he kind of wanted to pursue. And that was like the time that poker was big on ESPN. He had some friends playing, they started playing some underground games, and he just like worked hard at it and was like one of the better players in our city, which was Fort Wayne, Indiana at that time, pretty quickly. And he was like winning tournaments and having fun playing in underground games. And it was impossible for me not to notice because he lived with me, and I would go to work every day, tie on my tie, go and write code for this company in Fort Wayne called Do It Best Corp. And I would come home and he'd be on the computer playing poker, and I'd be like, "Bro, you really got to get your life together." And he's like, "What do you mean? Like I'm playing poker, I'm having fun, I'm winning." And I'm like, "Yes, but there's no future in poker." And he's like, I'm like, "Plus, like, how much are you winning really, you know?" And he's like, "Okay, well, just come over here and watch what I'm doing." So I would like come over and peek over his shoulder because I didn't know what poker was. We came from a family that like looked down upon gambling. So I had never even really played blackjack or any of those games. I didn't know what beat what. So he was kind of just showing me how he was doing this and like what the rules were and everything. And he was playing Sid Goes at the time. And, slowly over time, just seeing how passionate he was for the game and also seeing his like results, I was like, wow, maybe there is something to this. Like, show me like why you're doing this. And over time, like I started to develop an interest in it. And then, one thing leads to another. He's moving to Vegas. My brother and I are super close. And I was like, I can't let him go to Vegas and not follow him. So I'm going to go to Vegas. He's my little brother. I'm going to go keep an eye on him. And 6 months in Vegas, I messaged my employer and I was like, "This isn't really working for me. I basically want to quit." And eventually, I quit and started playing 1-2 at Planet Hollywood, and just being so excited about my $200 wins and grinding out $3,000 to $4,000 a month, thinking I was the king of the world. So yeah, that's how it all started.
I love it. And Johnny's a crusher. His brother Andrew is a crusher. Andrew's wife Christy is a crusher. And your wife Olga has made a video which you have pinned at the top of your Twitter account. And I highly recommend everybody follow Johnny. And it is probably one of the best videos as far as poker is concerned, because she was being asked by Johnny different poker terms, and was it a girlfriend of hers, or is it
Yeah, it's one of our
right?
mutual friends. My friend Gary Gates, his wife, they're best
Yes,
buds.
yes. And Johnny was asking them different poker terms, and they needed to define what they were and tell him what they thought the term was. And it's a great video, and it's lots of fun. And I highly recommend everybody go watch that. Tell me, do you have a favorite poker room in the United States or in the world?
Um, I would say that right now, if I had to say what my favorite poker room was, I would probably say it's the World Series when they put the World Series together, and they have all of those tables in the two ballrooms,
Right.
because I feel like when you say what's your favorite poker room, it's like what is that feeling you get when you walk into that room, right? And I love the Wynn, I love the Aria because I can walk there from my apartment. I love the Bellagio because I can walk there from my apartment. But there's this like feeling that you get, that I get when I walk into the World Series of Poker. It's like that, wow, we could actually like go on a run here and win a lot of money and perhaps be holding a bracelet by the end of it. So, yeah, I like playing poker in Vegas just because like I feel like it's the best place to play poker tournaments. Um, and it's just I live here as well, so
I
I would
love that.
say that I would say that, but in terms of like traveling around the world, I've played in Dublin, I've played in Barcelona, I've even been to Estonia for a poker stop, which is like Eastern Europe, Bahamas, obviously. I've played poker in the Philippines at Okada. I'm trying to think. There's been so many places that I've played, and it's just always been like I've always craved adventure and that feeling you get when you walk into something exciting, which is why I travel a lot, and which is why I attach like the World Series of Poker as like that feeling of excitement when I walk in the room.
Well, and I love that you said it that way because this summer, Brian and I did like a WSOP update every morning here in the spaces. And we tried to give some of the folks like a bird's eye view of that. And every person that we spoke to in those spaces that went to the WSOP for the first time or even repeat visitors, and you always have that feeling when you walk into one of those ballrooms. I mean, it's incredible. And I don't care how many times you've been there. If it's
Mhm.
your first time or your 25th time, I've never heard someone not say they get that feeling. And it's awesome. It really is.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't know of any. I don't know of any other poker room that we'd be willing to wait for hours in a line, other than the World Series of Poker.
True that. True that. Go ahead, Brian.
yeah, the thing is that it's just really like I always try to think about the fact that how many people are out there in Oklahoma or Kansas playing around the dining room table and never have the opportunity to go out there and play an event. I think it's really good that the World Series has lowered some of the buy-ins to bring in as many people as they can to have that experience. It's just I always think about that, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I did that vlog that year is I just felt like it was cool to get to share that with people. I think the other thing too, Johnny, like did you have like like did it feel kind of vulnerable a little bit, like you're out there, you're going to film something, you put it out there, and now you don't know what the results are going to be. like I, re- I remember
Yeah,
my intro was, I'm going to Vegas this summer and I'm either going to win millions or lose my ass, or something, and you don't know
yeah.
which way it's going to be.
Yeah,
So
I would say that I've never really vlogged tournaments, but I have kind of reported on how things have been going with my tournaments, in like a kind of
yeah,
a summary type of way for the World Series. And I think one of the reasons why is because tournaments, first of all, they're difficult to vlog because you really have to pay attention to a lot to actually play the tournament. Like,
right,
what's the stat? Like, how many big blinds do I have? How many big blinds does the guy on my left have? How many? You're tracking stack sizes. Now, if you're
yeah,
like adding in that you're trying to film the hands and write them down, it's just like so much work. And I'm trying to do my best. I want to win money. I want to win a bracelet. So I would say that it is scary to think about like making videos about tournaments because so often they're just going to end in heartbreak and frustration, and it's really hard to make videos about heartbreak and frustration. But when doing cash game videos, I know that like 6 out of the 10 videos that I make, 7 out of the
right,
10 videos I make, I'm gonna win money. So
right.
it's definitely more fun. It's easier too. Like I can sit back and relax. And the blind levels are always the same. The stack sizes are always over 200 big blinds for the most part. Just a lot easier of an experience
And
when you're trying to make a video.
let's face it, the cast of characters at the table are highly entertaining in cash most of the time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely more of a fun environment in terms of the actual social aspect of the game. Whereas like tournaments, the fun comes from running deep.
Absolutely. Okay, I have a rapid fire for you, Johnny. I'm going to give you choices. You got to pick one out of the choices. Beer or wine?
Beer.
Jeans or shorts?
Shorts.
Burgers or pizza?
Pizza.
Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame, or Ball State?
Oh, this is really tough because I'm gonna go with Purdue.
Colts or Raiders?
Raiders.
Limit or no limit?
No limit.
Online poker or live poker?
Oh, I have to go with live.
Boxers or briefs?
Um, Boxer briefs.
I thought you were pausing because you're going to say, commando? Okay. Whole milk or almond milk?
Almond.
How did I know to put that on that list? Thank you for playing. Donna, did
Actually,
you go ahead?
Olga actually made cashew milk in our Vitamix the other day, and it was so good.
Oh,
I think
yummy.
I think I'm gonna have to stop going. We're gonna stop buying like milk at the store now.
Yummy. Donna, did you have any comments or questions, love?
Yeah. Hi, Johnny. Nice to speak to you.
Hi.
What would be your fantasy? Because everybody's into fantasy football. I want to know what your fantasy final table would be, whether it be alive or dead. What would your final fantasy table poker playing be?
Okay, so I definitely would want my brother at the final table with me so that we could share in the experience. You got to go with like I'll go with some friends too. Like I'd like to see Rampage there. Um, and we gotta go with some old school guys like a like a like an Antonio Esfandiari and a Doyle
Oh,
Woo!
yes,
Brunson.
please.
That's one of our favorites.
Oh, yes, please.
Calm down, Donna.
The
Calm down.
magician.
Yeah, and maybe a Jen Tilly because she's just
Hell
super
yeah.
fun. Um, and then Christy. Christy'd be upset if I didn't invite her to our final table.
Yeah, I was going to have to make an 11th seat if you didn't mention her. I was going to make an 11th seat for her. Oh, that's funny. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're 6. Do you have any others?
Yeah, so I would say that my favorite like online player growing up was Victor Blum, and he's still around poker a little bit. So he went by Isildur on Full Tilt. And who else are we gonna go with? Let's go with Poppy GTO. We need to get him back in the mix.
All right.
Phil Ivey, because he's Phil Ivey, and me, Daniel Negreanu might make the cut, but he's real tough. So I don't know if he's like right there on the edge.
All right. He's an if, a
Well, it's got to
maybe.
be. I mean, it's a fun final table, right?
Yeah.
So any final table with Daniel would be fun for sure.
Yeah.
If we're thinking about winning, probably not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Phil Ivey. Hello. I'd rather
Well,
have
the
Deep
thing
Eggs
the
than
thing
Phil
about Phil
Ivey.
the thing about Phil Ivey though is I've never sat at the same table with him and played poker. So I feel like that's like still something on my list that I need to have happen before I can say that like I was a poker player for 15 years, I've played with Daniel, I've played with I've stacked Phil Hellmuth and Phil Hellmuth has berated me. Um, you know, I haven't played with. I never got to play with Doyle Brunson, which is unfortunate. I played with Phil Locke. I had Kings versus Aces versus Phil Locke. So a lot of these like old school guys I got to play with at some point. But Phil Ivey is one of those on the list that I have never sat at the same table with him.
Do you have a favorite? We normally don't take bad beat stories, but do you have a favorite bad beat story that you were either victim of or the perpetrator of?
Bad beat stories. Oh man, I try to expunge these from my mind.
So do we, but sometimes there's just
Sherry
that
makes
one.
Sherry makes the rules and then she breaks them. Jeez.
Only for Johnny. Only for
All
Johnny.
right, all right, all right.
I do remember one time I was playing in a tournament. I had pocket jacks. Of course, I had pocket jacks. Um, and uh, and I I raised and somebody three bet me, and I called. They were in the blinds,
Right.
and the flop came like king deuce deuce, and they just jammed all in for a big amount. And I had jacks, so I was like, I don't know. This guy seems like he might be crazy. I call, and he flipped over 7-8. So he
Oh,
basically couldn't win unless he went 7-7 or he went 8-8, and he went 8-8 to win the
oh,
hand.
oh, the reason why the three of us were laughing and they were putting up the laughing emojis when you say Jack, Jack, when you said Jack, Jack, that's my nemesis. And I'm actually going to write a book, The Journey of Jacks, because those
Mm,
Jacks have either, have beat me down or have made me lose in big spots in my poker career, so to speak. And
yeah.
it's not only when I have them, but my opponent has had them too. So it's my journey of jacks. That's why everybody was laughing when you said of all hands jacks.
Yeah, what's funny is that's probably like one of the top questions that people like to ask who are more beginning poker players. They're like, "So, how do I play jacks?" I like it. So it's almost become a meme at this point, and it's funny. My mind has like, I went from like someone who wasn't really entrepreneurial in nature at all to someone who thinks about like how what's ways to figure out how to make money, and like what are things that could be like where I could turn my passion into like something that like produces income for me. And I, for some reason, one day was like, you know what, I'm gonna go register howtoplayjacks.com. So I registered howtoplayjacks.com, and I just forwarded it to my YouTube channel.
I have to go look at that one. I missed that one. Oh,
That's fine.
I love it. Donna, you had such a great question. Did you have any others?
Sherry,
Let me
what
think and I'll come back to you.
Okay, no worries. Go ahead,
Sherry,
Brian.
what is the deal here? Like, I'm noticing a trend, right? We got like every other guest is a software developer. Like, what is it with us, right? Like,
Yeah, I think honestly, it comes from just the way our brain works. Like we're naturally inclined to be problem solvers, to be logic-based thinkers, and obviously not every software developer is going to make a great poker player, but I do think that having a logic-based mind and being someone who tackles problems from logic rather than emotion is someone who can excel in poker. So I don't think it's an accident that a lot of software developers turn to. Also, there was like a big push for software development back in the moneymaker days. So there was a lot of people getting into that and then discovered poker shortly after.
oh
Go,
yeah, yeah, that's true. What would you
go ahead.
say, Sherry?
Go ahead. Donna has her hand up.
Yeah, Johnny, well, I know your brother was a big part of you starting poker, but who did you look up to when you started playing poker? Not just your brother.
Yeah. So basically, I find that I gravitate to styles that are completely different than my own. So it's like one of the things with like my wife, she's completely different than me, right? And she's outgoing and wild and fun, and I'm more reserved and quiet and introverted. So I feel like try to surround myself with those kinds of people. So when it came to poker, I always like really was intrigued by the type of player that was reckless and wild and crazy and like, what are they doing? This is so wild. So that person was for me a Silder on Full Tilt. I mentioned him earlier, but he came onto the scene and like started wrecking like the top players like Tom Dwan. Came out of nowhere and ran up like $6 or $7 million playing online poker in short order, and then like lost it all. And it was just like when I see someone like that, I'm like, there's a part of me that wishes that I could do something like that, even though I know that I can't. So yeah, I really looked up to the type of player that was completely different than me.
Thank you.
Wow. You got me thinking about that one. Do you have any advice other than how to play jacks that you would give a novice or rec player? Because we have some of those in our audience today.
Yeah, my number one piece of advice is to have fun. So if you're playing in a game where players are a lot better than you, or the players are antisocial, or you're basically not having fun, I guarantee that if you like poker, there is a game out there where you're not going to be the worst player in the game, and you're going to have a more fun environment. So yeah, if poker's not fun for you, search for a game in a different spot. That would be my number one piece of advice.
I think that's great advice. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Ooh, that's a really crazy question. So I've been playing poker for 15 years, and if you asked me 5 years ago, 5 years ago would have been October of 2000 and what 17?
18.
No, 18. And I think that was the year. Maybe it was October. I think it was October 2018 when I uploaded my first YouTube video. So to like think about everything that's happened in the last 5 years of uploading YouTube videos, I would have never imagined that I'd be in this spot right now. So guessing right now is going to be like so. I guarantee that whatever I say right now, the possibilities are so much bigger than I'm going to say. But I think in 5 years, I'll probably have a couple kids because my wife and I are talking about starting a family, and I will be a part-time poker player, and I will probably be dabbling in some real estate businesses and maybe even some e-commerce businesses. And I will still be uploading on YouTube, whether it's helping my wife upload videos for her real estate channel or uploading poker videos here and there as I play on the occasional live stream. So that's what I think will happen in 5 years, but who knows?
Dude, you really need to get some goals. I mean, that just sounds like such a slacker's list.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is that I'm 42 years old. I'm entering a different phase in my life. If you would have asked me this question when I was 30, I would probably say that I'm going to be a main event champion and I'm going to like do all these things in poker. But I really am at a crossroads right now where like I want to kind of transition into more of a business life, more of a family life. So yeah, that's where these and I also want to take it like one day at a time. So looking out 5 years, you're right. You're right. Like I definitely could dream bigger, but who knows? Who knows?
Okay, that was a joke, but I'm
No,
thinking
no,
you're.
no, 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 no. I'm
I think your
not.
dreams are pretty cool, and I look to follow that journey because it's exciting. I'm happy for you. I can't wait to see how beautiful your children and family are going to turn out. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think like just in general, in following you, my general impression of you is just I don't know, you just feel like a positive person, and bringing that positivity to the world and that sort of thing. It's really social media is sometimes somewhat negative and that sort of thing, and it's good to have people that try to be on the more positive side of things. So that's something I've always really appreciated about you. um,
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I've actually noticed that, like, especially lately, the more polarizing you are and the more negative that you are and divisive you are, the actual, like, the bigger the audience that you garner and the more engagement that you get. But man, it's just like, I feel like it's like no way to live to bring that energy into your life.
Yeah, Sherry and I actually had a lot of conversations about that early on when we were doing early on, way back in June, when we were doing the daily spaces stuff, and all this crazy stuff would go on overnight, and like total train wrecks, and we talked to we talked about the idea of, you know, we're not going to like totally shy away from talking about something that everybody wants to talk about, but we're also not going to like make that the highlight of our show. And it was funny during that time, like we'd have, you know, Johnny, like we'd have like 40 or 50 people online, and somebody from that group remembers, Sherry, they were like, they're
Yep.
only getting 40 or 50 listeners. We were like, are you kidding? We're amazed that anybody showed up, you know?
Yeah.
And we were very happy with what we were doing, even when we had 4
Yeah.
people show up.
And it's fine to talk about that stuff, but I think you know, if you're talking about it just for views and things like that, like I want to make content that I enjoy. Like this conversation I'm really enjoying, and I think that's what's, you know, what's important. And all the negativity and all that, it really is kind of taking our society in a not so great direction, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, we definitely have some awesome listeners out there. So if somebody has some comments or questions for our guest, Johnny, or any of us, please press that mic request in that bottom left corner and join us and let us know your question or comments.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Actually, right around that time that you're mentioning, where the 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 the, the community of poker was like kind of having like an explosion in the spaces, and a lot of the attention was negative, and you know there was a lot of back and forth about like I hate this person, whatever, this person is a scammer, whatever. It was that's kind of the time where I decided to delete Twitter off of my phone, and I actually have had Twitter deleted off of my phone for since that time, and I installed it an hour before our call today. So
well,
that
we appreciate that you did, Johnny. We hope that we're bringing something positive to the world of spaces. And we just want to get to know you and other folks a little better. So
yeah,
we appreciate you reinstalling for us.
I couldn't find it
it,
for a
it
second. It was renamed to X, but I found it in the App Store.
Go ahead,
I
Don.
still pop in from time to time, and just respond to like posts that are used in general, like positive posts. So like I've been following Cody Daniels a little bit, so I like want to pop in and see how he's doing every once in a while. But for the most part, I've been really limit. I find that when I have a unhealthy balance of consumption versus creating, that I just don't really like the way it feels, and feels like it like lowers my quality of life. So I try to keep the creating and the consumption like at a similar ratio. And I haven't been creating as much lately, so been consuming less as well.
Good for you. Good for you. And we're hoping Cody might pop in. He said he might if he was lucid enough. So we were kind of hoping he would. Just maybe we could lift his spirits a little bit today. But he knows we're all thinking about him for sure. Donna, go ahead, love.
Yeah. In December, as you know, we have the head-to-head WSOP Bahamas and WPT Win. Which one will you be attending and why?
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stay in Vegas. It's my apartment is here, and I've been to the Bahamas probably 5 times. So it's I really don't care too much about like in terms of like trophies. I like if I won the WPT trophy, I would be just as excited as if I won a WSOP circuit um, event ring or whatever you win down there. I think it's a circuit ring. So yeah, I'm gonna stay close to home and go to WPT. I played last year, and like the prize pool was absolutely insane. It's basically like a World Series of Poker main event, comparable, where it generated over 30 million, I believe, last year in prize pool. So it's one of the only things that comes close to the main event at a 10K price point.
And
Yeah,
they
they're
have, go
guaranteeing
ahead.
40 million this year, aren't they?
What was that?
Sorry, I'm eating a Malteser. They're guaranteeing 40 million this
Are they?
year.
I didn't even realize that.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is like I think last year didn't they peak at 27 mil? And this year they're
I'm not sure. I
guaranteed
thought it was close to 30, but yeah.
it was 27, 28 mil, and they said they're going to guarantee 50 mil this year, Johnny.
Wow. No, 40.
It's insane.
I thought it
But
was 40.
I
yeah,
thought it was 40.
Oh, did I say 50? No, it
Yeah,
was
it's
definitely
40.
40. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's definitely 40.
that is a crazy amount of money.
That really is for a poker tournament in December. That's not the World Series. That's like, yeah, that's insane.
It's awesome. Well, Donna is coming over. She lives in outside of London a couple of hours, so she's coming over for the WPTs.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
7 weeks to
anytime you
go.
guys, anytime anybody sees me in the hallway at any of these poker rooms, feel free to say hi. I really enjoy the interactions. My wife really loves them too, actually.
for sure. You were very gracious when I met you last year. It was fun because I had interviewed you on the Flophouse Radio, and then I got to meet you. We were watching in the Thunderdome. We were watching a live feed table,
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember.
and it was fun getting to. I'm sorry, my phone was ringing. It was fun getting a little snapshot with you. So hopefully we'll bump into you.
That's the other thing with the World Series, Johnny, is like as your friends get down to the final table, and it's just such like these other events where you have this little tiny like table
Yeah,
versus this like arena in there where people are just having fun and all of that. I mean,
yeah, it was
it's
really
just
unfortunate. I've had one like I've had two final tables that were like six-figure amounts of money, and the one was at the Venetian, and they moved us into a corner, and they're like, nobody record any videos on your phones. Everybody needs to stay back. Like, nobody can like, you know, it was like very like hush hush, like leave these players alone, and that's no fun. Like we're at a final table
yeah.
for big amounts of money. Like I want my wife to like be able to like make a Instagram video of me playing without you telling her to delete it off her phone. Like it's kind of wild.
That's what's it's nice that some of the places seem to be getting it finally. I've talked a lot about that with Jack
Yeah,
over the years. Back like Daniel was the only guy that was allowed to film, and you had to turn in all this stuff, and you still have to do that,
yeah,
um, but but they've definitely opened it up quite a bit from what it was, and
yeah.
just in general across a lot of different properties. And
The
that's the
the
thing,
oh yeah, so
like that content. That's what if you look at like all that stuff, like Formula One and that kind of stuff, all that content, Netflix coming along and doing the show, obviously. Um, I think user generated content is the thing that is really missing, like especially when you talk about the World Series main event,
yeah,
because if you go back to Moneymaker, the numbers that were involved were so low that they were able to kind of keep an eye on a lot of different people and build these storylines a lot better.
mhm,
Um, and the only way to do that in a huge field is to really encourage a lot of people to shoot video and I've always thought about that because in the end all of the cards, and whatever, it's about the story. Well, like with the casual viewer, like you and I, we can talk about ICM plays and what the GTO um, you know move was here or there, but like when you're talking about mainstream, you're talking about like what's the story, and the only way to really capture that is user generated content in that kind of big field. So
Yeah, totally.
Uh,
It's free too. I don't really understand why.
it's free publicity, and I'll have to say, like, Sean McCormick is that's one of the things, like, I saw when he came and took over there at MGM. That's one of the first things he did was put out a thing saying, hey, here's my information, this is what you got to do to get approved, and just really welcoming that, and really you know trying to almost like recruit people in to do that, and it's really nice to have. I mean, you're sitting here doing something for free that's really marketing these properties and their product, so to speak. And and in the years ago, them working against you like that was really kind of like really baffling. So
Yeah,
uh,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, think about it from a logical perspective. You have somebody who makes a video and puts it on YouTube about experience that they had at, let's call it the Bellagio, right? And let's say 50,000 people watch that video. What, like, there's a large percentage of people watching that video that's like, I bet I could do this, or that looks like something that I want to try. And where is he playing at? Oh, the Bellagio. Oh, where? Okay, so like they're learning and we're like walking them through what it's like to come to the Bellagio and play poker as an example. Like, I don't know, it's pretty good target marketing.
I think it's great target marketing. And, it's free, like Brian said. Like, I understand, they always looked at it from a security point of view, but now they're coming around to realize that it's really about a publicity point of view when you
well,
vloggers are going at it.
I mean, that is important though, Sherry. I was
Sure.
playing. We were in the money in the tag team event. I know, sick brag, and and these people were, they had their media credentials, and they were there with one of the players at my table, but they weren't filming him at all, and they were filming every single hand, and I'm like, no, this is not going to happen. Like,
Mhm,
get your clip. Mainly it should be about the player that you're there for,
mhm.
and and I think all of that stuff is very easy to work around and maintain the integrity of the game. If you have some pretty common sense rules and you allow the floor should always have discretion. If somebody, I mean, number one, at the World Series, you're only really supposed to. Do you know, Johnny? I think it's like a half an hour a day inside the ropes or something.
So I think that with the passes that they're giving out in terms of people being allowed to film you, it's five
Yeah.
minutes. It's 10 minutes per hour, 5 minutes
Okay.
per 5 minutes per every half hour. Like at from like 30 to 35 you can film, and then from like the top of the hour to five past the hour.
Yeah.
And for some things, you have to have an escort.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about that in Vegas.
Oh, I love it.
I almost didn't get it. I'm sorry. And my daughter here, she definitely didn't get it.
Good thing.
Oh, Brian, even I got it.
Uh,
Come on, wake up, man.
well, Donna, I would be very shocked if you didn't get it.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Donna, did you have any other questions or comments?
No, that's it for me. Thank
Okay.
you so much for answering, Johnny. Very much appreciated.
Of course, yeah. Thank you.
Well, Brian, any more questions?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, that's great. Thank
We
you,
try to
Johnny.
keep we try to keep it to about an hour, Johnny.
Okay.
So we appreciate you coming to visit with us. I hope you do it again in the future. And we're gonna be railing you, so we want you on those final tables when we're in Vegas.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I'm not playing too much in poker tournaments. Like the chances of me being at a final table are going to be few and far between. It'll be like the WPT in December. I may play the NAPT, which is coming in at the Venetian, which is soon. think in a couple weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah.
And then, of course, the World Series of Poker. Those are going to be my main opportunities, the final table.
Well, we'll take you up on that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, we appreciate you, and we appreciate the time you've taken away from your family. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just going to call it here, Johnny. You're going to win the main event.
Oh my gosh.
And here's why, Johnny. Because cash game players are really good in the main event. It's a really good mindset to have playing the main event. A lot of cash game players do really well, even if they've never played before, So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, well, good luck, my friend.
I've had some decent luck in the main. I've cashed that tournament 5 times, so I would really love to get over the hump and perhaps get a final table. That would definitely be a dream. Winning would feel like lightning striking for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we will hope for that lightning strike because you are working hard toward that goal.
For sure.
Guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a great rest of the day.
All right,
Thank
care,
you
everyone.
to our listeners. Bye, Johnny. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.